we will go ahead and get started. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Agent,
Here.
Clegg,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Sanchez, Thompson,
Here.
Woodings,
Here.
5 present, 1 absent.
Thanks. Next up is a request for approval of the work session and regular evening minutes of June 16th.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
before that, I'd like to
Oh.
move to amend the agenda.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to amend the agenda to include consideration of ordinance 21-20 and ordinance amending Boise City codes, adding a provision to allow non-permanent, non-toxic chalk markings on sidewalks. It is necessary to amend the agenda and include this item because it was still being vetted with community partners.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Great. And council member, when we get to the first, second, third reading, will you remind me that you have to do that? Because my paper agenda doesn't have that on it.
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right, next up, the work session and evening minutes from the 16th.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move approval of the minutes of the City Council work session on June 16th and the regular evening of the same date.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thanks. Next up, under special business, we have 3 reappointments to the Open Space and Clean Water Committee with terms that will end July 2023. And that's for Matt Cryer, Catherine Dallas Elliott, and Michelle Myers.
Madam Mayor, I would ask unanimous consent that we reappoint Matt Cryer, Catherine Dallas Elliott, and Michelle Myers to the Open Space and Clean Water Advisory Committee for 3 years ending July of 2023, and thank them with all our heart for their continued work in this capacity.
Yes, but all 3 of these members have been on the Open Space Committee in the past, so this is another term for them, so I really appreciate their service. And I can't recognize you back there. Are you one of our newly reappointed members? Okay. All right. I didn't want to not invite you to make comments if you were here for your reappointment. But yes, thanks so much to all 3 members for re-upping. Did we already do? We did the without objection.
Yes.
All right. Okay, next we have the request for reconsideration of PUD.
Madam Mayor,
Oh, yes.
I believe 2 of the appointees are,
Oh, they're
online.
on Zoom. Great. Hi. So Michelle, you are muted. Thanks. I don't have Zoom up, so I didn't see that. Thank you. Michelle, we've reappointed you. Lovely to have you. You're welcome to say anything you'd like to say at this point.
I just enjoyed being on the committee. I really like the people we work with, and I love open space, and being able to contribute is very satisfying. So thank you for reappointing me.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And then do we have, you said somebody else?
Catherine Elliott.
Catherine.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate the reappointment. I am also thrilled and honored to have the opportunity and experience working firsthand to preserve these areas for use. And along with Michelle, it's a great opportunity, and it's been a great community to be a part of. So thank you for allowing us this opportunity.
Thank you for your service.
Welcome.
So Matt is not here.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And next up then, we have a request for reconsideration. Oh, excuse me. A request for reconsideration, PUD 19-42. Celine.
Madam Mayor, council members, Celine Accord with Planning and Development Services. Before you tonight is a request for reconsideration for PUD 1942. This was a PUD for a 15 multifamily unit project with 1 single family home at the intersection of 5 Mile and McMillan. City Council reviewed an appeal earlier this month on June 9th and ultimately denied the appeal and upheld the decision of approval for Planning and Zoning Commission. The appellant submitted a request for reconsideration, which is before you tonight. You merely need to decide if a reconsideration should be approved or denied. In our minds, the documentation provided did not include any information that wasn't previously available for City Council. Therefore, we are recommending denial of the reconsideration request.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I could just ask one question of Celine.
Yes.
Celine, I just wanted to put some more specificity around this. I see that in our city code 110303-7G for reconsideration that we may reconsider a decision for good cause based on a few different factors, whether there's relevant information that was not brought up at a previous hearing and whether there's information that was not previously available. I think that's what you just said, but I wanted to verify that that is the case.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Thompson, that is correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? If not, a motion is properly before us.
Madam Mayor, I'd move denial of the request for reconsideration.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All right, clerk, will you call the roll?
Clegg,
Council President? I guess I don't need to yell at the screen.
helps.
Council President. We might have lost her.
Madam Mayor, it looks like she's an attendee.
Oh, she got bumped. Okay, that's all right. You can keep going.
okay. Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda, all items.
Oh,
with the-
Madam Mayor, I
Yes.
think we have
Whoop, is there something else?
249-20.
What?
Resolution.
Oh, thank you.
You
Gosh, I
betcha.
didn't see that under the bold. Next up, we have 249-20.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. I would move approval of resolution 249-, now let me get it right, sorry. 249-20. And this is the emergency order that you put in place yourself, Madam Mayor, and want to thank you for your leadership on this. And I would move approval on behalf of the council.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Yeah, I'll just say that this order is what we've been doing, which is looking to the health district to make the orders, and then we write and pass an order that's reflective of the health district's rules. And with this one, it includes additional rules related to the airport and some public meeting restrictions. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Now we have the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor, before moving approval, I would move we first defer resolution 226-20 to a date certain of July 14th, as the item is still being worked on at the staff level. I also move that we remove subdivision 19-00074 from the consent agenda for separate consideration.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. I believe is there discussion? Council President, did you have?
Madam Mayor, I thought I was going to have to recuse on 226-20, but since it's pulled, I won't have to.
Okay, great, thanks. So we have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
With that, Madam Mayor, I request approval of the full consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, I guess. I didn't catch so Councilman, your first motion was just to remove things?
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, so that was an extra motion. Now the motion is for the consent agenda. Will you call the roll?
Thank you. Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And so the one item was deferred, but the other item now we need to hear, Councilman, based on your motion. I had an agenda that had it. The one that you pulled, are we now hearing that?
I have a question as to whether, would that just move to subdivisions or would we, and start with first readings, or do we go? I
do
don't
it
know.
now.
Okay, great. So that would be subdivision 190074, correct?
Okay, great. I'm sorry. Do we have staff that's presenting on this?
Looks like David Moser. Okay,
I did have a host script and now I don't. Oh, here it is.
okay.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of council, give me a moment while I share the screen.
So, and while David Mosier's sharing his screen, Matt Munger is the applicant, and I believe, according to this, we have Sina that would like to testify, represented by Eric Berg. And then we have 3 members of the public. No, that's a subdivision. Never mind. Which one? Yeah.
Yep,
it.
that's good.
Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Okay.
Potentially 3 members of the public.
Go ahead.
Good evening, David Moser, Planning Development Services. Please note that this is not a typical final plat application. These applications are usually approved on the consent agenda. However, this project is a little different since both, as already mentioned, Sina and the public wish to testify in this application tonight. The final plat before you is the Greenheads End subdivision. Here's a very short summary of the project. The project includes a preliminary plat, rezone, or the project included a preliminary plat, rezone, and planned unit development, all of which were approved by the City Council back on May 14th of 2019, last year. At this hearing, members of the public spoke in opposition to the project, which included concerns regarding saving the existing trees. To address these concerns, City Council added additional conditions. This slide shows the project layout with the existing trees overlaid on the project design. The final plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plat layout and the plan unit development site plan. Additional conditions added by the City Council are listed here. To address these conditions, the applicant has provided additional analysis regarding the loss of the trees, and within the analysis, they've explained why the trees cannot be saved with the development of the site as per the originally approved or any reasonable changes to the approved plans of the preliminary plat and the plan unit development. As such, the planning team believes that the applicant has satisfied the City Council's additional conditions. So in summary, the planning team recommends approval of the final plat. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, David. If I could ask you a question, and it may be that I will end up having to ask the applicant, but I'll ask you first. Was any effort made to amend the footprint layout of the buildings on the plat in order to save the trees?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I've talked to the applicant briefly about that. Based on I think their analysis, and maybe they can better explain it, is that given the root system of the sequoia or the tree, or at least the one tree, and the drip line, any adjustment of the footprint would still probably result in the loss of the tree. Although I think they can better explain that, and I think they had an arborist or their landscape professional look at this. So I think they might provide a more technical answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, next up we have the applicant. I see you, Mr. Munger.
Good evening. I'm Matt Munger with WH Pacific. Our address is 690 Industry Way, Meridian. I think David was accurate in his statement that the this is not a standard subdivision in that there is some extra conditions placed that that required us to look at some different things, one of which being saving the sequoia tree and as many of the trees on the site as we can. One of the things that we did do, if you look at the drawing that David has up there with the preliminary plat, the original layout had a turnaround for the fire trucks off of the alleyway. We've modified that. They've agreed to do the rollout service with the garbage trucks. So we've eliminated that extra width between the buildings that appears in lot 12. We've narrowed that down. We looked at shifting the buildings around to try to save the sequoia. The problem we run into is the drip line is so big on that tree that even if we trim the limbs up and pull the buildings back, we're either going to compact the ground over the roots through the construction process, or we're going to end up cutting off too many of the roots and the tree will likely not survive. So in lieu of that, or once we realized that, what we did was we took that extra space and moved it to the Loggers Creek Lane end of the site. We put an extra 5 feet of setback on that side to try to create a better buffer between Loggers Creek Lane and the development. And we utilize that space there. With the sad part about this project is in order to build this project as it's approved, and with the alley loading on these units, it pushes all of the building pads into the area where the trees are, with the exception of 3 trees along the south boundary that are built right on the line, or that were planted right on the line between us and the neighbor to the south. And those trees we're proposing to save. And we'll have to just get creative with the fencing down there. Actually, it's 4 trees, and we'll have to get creative with the fencing to fence out and around those as they're planted right directly on the line. I think this layout, you can see what we've done with the sequoias, the large tree. We pushed the buildings far enough apart, but what you can see is that due to the size of that tree and its location, there's not much we can do to save that. The other conditions that I wanted to touch on briefly were the working with the applicant or working with the neighborhood and the Sage School to create a parking zone for this area. Jane Suggs, when she was with our office, contacted the neighborhood association as well as the Sage School and put them in touch with the entities to create a neighborhood parking district for that. I'm not sure if anything has been done to continue that, but it was our understanding from that conversation that it needs to be brought forward by the neighborhood association, not by a single development. So we put them in touch with the people that they need to talk to. And we've been working with ACHD for signage to improve the signage on the frontage, denoting that the public street ends at Logger Creek Lane and that it's a private road from there out. I guess with that, I would stand for any questions that you might have.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt. So it looks like the Sequoia is right in between lots 3 and 4. Did you consider trying to do a joint garage for those two somewhere else on the site, frankly? I mean, that's a tree that you don't get back once it's gone. I'm assuming it's the garages that have created the inability to save that tree. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the garage units and their driveways. I didn't look at trying to position those someplace off-site. I guess the only concern I would have there is the way we have these set up to try to create some private space for the individual lots. We've pulled the garages back to towards the alley and pushed the buildings all the way up to the front setbacks on the Highland Street side. So I'm not sure where we would find space to do that other than potentially facing driveways out to Highland, which that the intersection of Highland and Mallard right now, it functions more like a curve than an intersection, as the traffic is unabated going from Highland onto Mallard. So I'm not sure how we would do that without flipping those over and bringing two driveways straight out into that corner where it's on a blind curve.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess as we had some discussions during the original hearing, I seem to remember at least some discussion about having one or a few of these lots access a driveway and garage off of Londoner instead of off of the alley, recognizing that that does compromise the sidewalk, does lose some on-street parking. I'm bringing this up. I don't know what the neighborhood's going to have to say, but I just want to know that all of the various options were looked at.
Councilman Clegg, I didn't look to bring any driveways off Londoner. We have such a short distance between the shared access or alley space and that corner that, again, I just as soon not have people backing out onto a street that has very little traffic control to it. So I didn't look to put driveways in that direction. When we kind of went through it and I pushed stuff apart, at one point we tried to even take the 5 feet back on the Loggers Creek side and put an even bigger gap in there. But I guess the conclusion we came to, going through this with Kim Siegenthaler and other members of the team is there's not really a way to build the approved project and keep that tree as much as we'd like to. I even approached the opinion or the option of, is there some way that we can relocate it? And that was also determined to be, unfeasible.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant? All right. Now, does Sina plan to testify? Yes. All right. So we'll get you set up. What? Oh, I just don't see him. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Mayor and City Council members, when any project is approved, there's a long list of conditions attached to its approval by the city. And they range from addressing procedure to the work hours, but each of these conditions is important to making sure that the project is done according to what was agreed to by the city and the applicant. They must be taken seriously and not seen as optional. In the case of this project, however, the applicant has done exactly that. In defiance of the original conditions of approval, the applicant has not followed the City Council's instructions. They've failed to revise the plan to meet the requirements of their approval, and therefore Sina voted to oppose it at their most recent meeting. In the May 14th, 2019 City Council meeting, the project was approved with the conditions that is in your packet. Number 4 being that the existing sequoia tree located on the property shall be saved unless it is shown to not be possible. Number 5, a plan shall be presented showing what other trees on the site can be saved, and if not possible to save additional trees, reasons shall be given why. Cena and the neighbors greatly appreciated these conditions. A previously approved project on this lot, subdivision 0600114, that had been supported by the neighbors, included saving the sequoia tree, among others. We therefore were confident that a revised site design to save this over 70-year-old tree could be developed. However, while I had reached out to the applicant and then to the city to see if they had sent any revised designs to them in October and January, not a single different design nor dialogue to that effect was offered. Not a single drawing, not a hypothetical of what we could do off Londoner or what we could do in any way other what had been previously sent has ever been seen by Cena or the neighbors. At the hearing in May 2019, Councilmember Thompson and Council President Clegg had this discussion. Councilmember Thompson said, when you say you have to prove that you can or can't save, you use the term prove. I think coming back and saying building it exactly how we've been describing does not prove that you can't save the sequoia. I think downsizing one end unit or something along those lines is appropriate to save it. Council President Clegg responded, or other trees, to which Councilmember Thompson agreed, or other trees. This firmly established that not only was it required to save the sequoia, but that simply bringing back the original site design to council was not an acceptable option. This included saving other trees as well. The explicit will of the council was for the applicant to go back to the drawing board and find a way for the sequoia and other trees to be saved. The applicant then sent a letter to the city on January 3rd, 2020, addressing these conditions, stating that all trees, included the noted sequoia tree, will require removal to allow for the construction of the town homes, garages, and access drive as approved. This letter and the attached are submitted to satisfy the 2 conditions noted above. No different plans were submitted with this letter, no alternatives, no hypothetical, no downsizing of any units, changing of a unit, moving of a garage, or any other option was suggested or even alluded to. In fact, no apparent attempt was made to save a single tree, as the applicant states in their letter that every single one would be removed. The idea that there is no possible way to save even a single tree in this project seems absurd. I'm glad they're now talking about the 4 along the property line. Although I would point out that those are along a property line, so there's, anything that would not be in someone else's property or be directly affected by someone else's property, they are proposing to remove. They did nothing more than bring back the exact same design with no changes whatsoever, and then claim that this met the conditions of the council, which it doesn't. The words of the council were clear. Coming back with the same design was not sufficient to show that it could not be saved. The only way for the applicant to not save the sequoia tree would be to show it is not possible. However, the existence of the previous design that was proposed for this lot, subdivision 0600114, that had been approved for this exact same lot while retaining the sequoia, proves that preserving the tree is not impossible. Otherwise, how could we have an approved drawing for this? It also proves that the applicant did not uphold their condition of approval, which automatically means the final plot must be rejected. A couple other quick things I do want to touch on. Cena did receive an email from Jane Suggs in October saying that there was an email for someone at Sage and that we should talk to them. I responded to that email asking for an update on the project and also what the game plan was or what moving forward we could do in terms of handling parking or trees. No response was ever sent by Bugs. CENA understands that not all projects will include conditions put on them by the council to preserve trees or mitigate parking. We know this is a very special case. It's a very special tree, as you can see on that photo. When conditions are included in projects, however, and agreed to by the applicants, they become a promise to the city and the neighbors of how the project will proceed. The conditions the applicant agreed to were not onerous nor impossible to uphold. The previous project demonstrates that. CENA does not oppose development. We don't oppose development on this piece of land, but we do oppose the wrong project for the site. And what is increasingly frustrating is that I would love to sit down with the developer and the neighbors and draw on paper or on CAD or figure out a way to make this work. I think there are ways to do it by moving garages, as Council President suggested. There are alternatives here. And so I'm not asking to not build, but I am asking to build the better project. This confirms that it's the wrong project because they can't even uphold the own conditions that they agreed to when they were here in May. CENA and the neighbors would be happy to work with them to develop plans that fit for this, but this simply isn't it and should be rejected. Thank you, and I'll open myself to questions.
Your question?
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Eric, the previous project had fewer units, if I'm not mistaken. Are you suggesting that this can be redesigned with the same number of units that it has today, that you'd be happy to at least engage in a process to try and do that?
Madam Mayor, Council President, yes, you're right. The previous project that I'm referring to had 8 units. This has 14. They were larger units, so I think the square footage is somewhere similar. But having said that, even at the proposed density, CENA would be happy to sit down with the applicant and come up with ideas to make it work at the proposed density. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Berg. So there's at least one person on who would like to testify. Can you tell me, Ms. Woodings, what's your last name?
I believe it's Marcy Woody.
What? Oh, are you, nope, she's on the phone. Are you here to testify for this item?
No, I was looking at a previous one.
Okay, thanks. Marcy, if you are on, you can go ahead and share with us your testimony.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
There we go. Thank you. Yes, I'm testifying for Jane Elizabeth Whitty. We live at 121 East Highland Street, just a stone's throw from this property. We understand your time is valuable and we appreciate the opportunity to speak, even if it is virtual. We are here in opposition to the approval of the final plat for 211 West Highland Street, sub 20-00074. We did not expect to be in front of the City Council again. When we last testified during the May 14th City Council meeting, we were all informed we would have the opportunity to further discuss our concerns about the trees and other issues in front of a design review committee. And when Councilwoman Ellen Clegg asked about the trees as well, it was once again stated that the next step, I quote, next step is design review where the trees could be reviewed. After watching for an announcement on the property about a design review committee meeting, we never did see one. I personally called last fall to see if there was any word on a design review committee meeting, and the message I received back was that there was no new updates and that they had 2 years to get the final plat approved. Judy Smith called a few months ago to also check on the design review meeting. She was informed the design review had already been approved at the staff level and there would be no hearing. And then to see that the design review approval was May 15th, the very next day after our meeting with you on May 14th. frustrating for us. Our neighbors, we've all worked so hard to play by the rules and have a voice in this substantial change in our neighborhood. However, this process has proven to be extremely frustrating for us. So our concerns is the loss of the sequoia tree. It's heartbreaking to all of us. It's over 70 years old. To read in a document from WH Pacific that the lot is going to be clear cut is devastating. Many of the council members supported saving the tree during the hearing on May 14th. Council members TJ Thompson and Ellen Clegg specifically addressed saving the tree. Boise is the city of trees, and we love the new initiative, the City of Trees Challenge, which was launched on Arbor Day of this year. Maybe we can work to save this beautiful sequoia. Also, we were going to talk about Loggers Creek Lane is private property. Why is the setback not 20 feet like has been enforced on the private portion of Highland Street just to the east of this property? And we were going to talk about the transition of the end units to a single level, particularly on the east side of this property. This will provide a much better transition and not dwarf a couple of the smaller homes along the private lane while adding a transition that's not a 30-foot high wall. During the design review process, we were also going to request a little bit of a design change to fit a little better with the neighborhood. Harris Ranch is an amazing neighborhood and the design of the front porches fits perfect there. Is there a way to change the front awnings to match the surrounding architecture possibly a little better? Thank you again for allowing this virtual attendance. We love our neighborhood and greatly care and love our city of Boise. Our neighborhood is like a park and we enjoy the friendly community we live in. This sequoia tree is very impressive and should be saved. Thank you again for your time.
Madam Mayor, I guess I'm not quite familiar with when we use the term "if possible" when we're putting conditions on something. If possible with the same amount of units as 14, if possible if we subtract 1 unit to make space in there. And so I guess I could use some clarification, and I don't know if that's possible or not.
Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to provide my point of view on that if it's appropriate to do that.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Halliburton, my memory of the discussion the night that this was approved with that condition was that the city council supported the density in terms of the number of units. There was discussion about whether or not there could be some variation in the exact size and layout of the units, which today there's not. So the motion, as I understood it, was with the same number of units, was it possible to lay out this project differently and save at least the sequoia tree, if not more?
Madam Mayor, thank you. I don't know if there was anything additional from staff as far as, I guess I just have some confusion there. Like, because I also hear that what the neighborhood association is saying is that there was a condition that was put on here to save the tree. And then we have the term "if possible" in there. And I can't tell the effort that was made towards actually doing something different or redesigning anything, because it sounds like it's the exact same plot that's there, or that there wasn't even the exact same plot with, the movement of a building or the removal of a building. So I don't know if there's been any, if staff has had different interactions and have seen more of those plans.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, if possible is a somewhat subjective term, and I would defer to Council Member Clegg's definition of it. I think she was one of the makers of the motion back in May of last year as to what the intent was at that time. And as for reviewing other plans, I have not seen anything new or any different iterations of this or different designs that might be moved around. Maybe the applicant might provide a better explanation to that, but none of that was provided to the staff.
Thank you. And then Madam Mayor, I guess just to continue to follow up on that, maybe with the applicant. I know that they addressed it a little bit already, but Matt, could you maybe go through one more time and just say what the efforts that you put into to redesign to see if it was possible?
Would you direct that to?
Oh, the applicant, Matt.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Halliburton. Yeah, the areas that we looked, David, if you could put the preliminary plat back up. Yeah, that one, the landscape plan will work. That's got good separation to it. You can see in the, actually, this is a pretty good picture of the site because you can see actually how much of the site is building when you go to lots that are that small. And the layout that you see there on the landscape plan has that turnaround on the one pathway lot between the two. So basically that's the space that we had to try to utilize in here for that, to save that tree. So we narrowed that down to the same 10-foot width that the other pathway is and pushed that space over between the garages where the tree is located. And even if we took those buildings and pushed them all the way together and eliminated that pathway connection, we still couldn't get out of the drip line of the Sequoia. So with that, we started looking at other options on, maybe trying to pull a unit from there and attach it to one of the other sites. And we came up with the same conclusion over and over again. You have a limited amount of frontage. You've got 14 lots that we're trying to fit in there, and that tree's just too big and in the wrong location to try to save. At one point with one of the topos, we sent the surveyors back out there to get a better location on those trees. So that we could plan that better, because one of the options originally was to flip the site, push the driveway to the north, and bank the garages along the south boundary. But all that did was move the road to the tree instead of the buildings. So in going through this, we've taken these lots, we've moved them back and forth and up and back, trying to get space for that tree, and it just doesn't fit. It is a beautiful tree and it fit nicely when it was one house and a forest. But to try to get this project in there, we just can't do it and save that tree.
Madam Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't even know if this is an appropriate question, but I'm just going to ask it. Do we know if this is a hardy tree? Has it been checked out to make sure that this tree is actually healthy and should still be standing? I love trees. Just thought I'd put that out there and see if that's something we're aware of.
We did have the landscape architect take a look at the tree. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Sanchez. We did have the landscape architect take a look at the tree. It's in pretty good shape. It's a beautiful tree. There's no getting around that. It's just not, it's just not the place for the tree anymore. As much as I hate to say that, it's a gorgeous tree.
Oh, Mr. Munger.
I mean,
everybody check on Elaine.
The trees on the other end, they're not in good shape. There's a couple in there that we could, right along Loggers Creek Lane, that we're going to tag when we get back out there with the survey crew, and we can show where they fit and see if we can't save them. But for the most part, they're all grown together and they're not in good shape.
So again, this tree, it sounds like it is healthy and okay.
It is, and it is. It's a beautiful tree. We've between the planners and the landscape architect and myself and the architect, we've gone through everything we can think of to get this project and that tree. And that's where we're at.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
this is maybe a question for staff or maybe some of the institutional knowledge on the council, but if this property were not subject to development, if it were going to remain a single family residence, would the landowner have any restriction on just going out with a chainsaw and cutting the tree down?
No.
So, okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, if the tree's on private property, if it just is a house and the owner wanted to take the tree down, they'd have a right to do so if it's a single family house.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Bajent. That's a great question, and it is a point of discussion that we've had on the council. There are other cities that do regulate trees on private property. The city of Boise at this point does not.
Madam Mayor, if I can follow up. I guess we don't have a motion. Never mind. I have some discussion at that time.
Are there other questions? All right, with that, a motion is, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Oh, rebuttal by the applicant. Apologies. Mr. Munger, if you'd like to wrap us up, you may.
Yeah, I just have a couple quick things. I think the discussion has led to where we're really at on this project is, doing what we can to save the trees. And I agree with Councilwoman Clegg that when this came through the first time, the condition to save the tree if possible, that's a pretty open question. But it was in the context of an approved preliminary plat and an approved PUD, showing the lots the way they are and the number of units, more importantly. So, I'd like to just wanted to get that in there. As far as the design review issues that the neighbors have, I'm not sure what the policy is on those, because as WH Pacific, we're bringing forth a subdivision. The buildings and what they look like and their front porches, that's all part of the design review on the houses themselves. And so I wasn't involved in that, so I'm not sure what the timing was there, or where that disconnect came. And I think that's everything in my notes that we haven't already touched on. So with that, I would yield the podium.
Madam Mayor, are we now?
My mic was on and I didn't realize it, and I'm leaning back because I've been in this chair for so many hours today. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and a motion's properly before us.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to give this a shot if I could. And I would move that we defer this project for no longer than 1 month. I don't have a calendar in front of me for a date certain, and allow the neighborhood and the developer to at least discuss whatever ideas the neighborhood has that might lead to a solution to save at least this one tree. And then let it come back before us with discussion about how that process goes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Oh, any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Bajent.
I believe in trees and I like trees and I want more trees, and I'm interested in trades. You remove a tree and you plant 2 trees, all very good things and important things and objectives for our city that I want to help move forward during my time here. This is a 70-year-old tree that could be cut down now. and we're imposing a requirement as a condition of development that wouldn't be a requirement on the landowner if this developer wasn't trying to accomplish the density and housing goals that we need in our city. I'm happy for another month, but I would also be happy to vote to approve the plan.
Other discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Council President Clegg and with Council Member Bajent, but I love the third way, and so I would support Council President Clegg's motion that we see if the developer and the in the neighborhood could come to some sort of understanding, and if we're not able to reach that, we'll move from there. But if it is possible for them to reach some sort of agreement, I would be supportive of that.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
No.
Agent,
No.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. Now we will move into ordinances. That was actually in subdivisions and consent, which is, we just pulled that one off, so I needed to double check. So we have first reading up first, ordinance 2020.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on first reading be read by number and title only and filed for the second reading calendar.
Without objection?
ORD-20-20, an ordinance CAR 19-00030 for property located at 9819 and 9831 West Shields Avenue for a minor modification to a previously approved development agreement. Amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance from single-family residential R-1C to medium-density residential with design review and development agreement R-2DDA, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such zone change and providing an effective date.
Thanks. Next up, we have second reading, ordinance 1420.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on second reading calendar be read by number and title and only and filed for third reading calendar.
Without objection?
ORD-14-20, an ordinance repealing Boise City Code Title 6, Chapter 18, entitled Use of Mobile Electronic Devices While Driving and providing an effective date.
Thanks. We don't have anything on third reading, but we have that first, second, and third reading.
Great. Madam Mayor, I move that all rules of the council interfering with the immediate consideration of ordinance 21-20 be suspended, that the portions of Idaho Code 50-902 requiring an ordinance be read on 3 different days, twice by title and once in full, be dispensed with, that the record show it has been read the third time in full.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
ORD-2120, an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 5, Section 2, marking on sidewalks, Boise City Code, adding a provision to allow non-permanent, non-toxic chalk markings on sidewalks, providing for a waiver of the reading rules and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that we approve ordinance 2120.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
While it may seem unusual to walk something on and pass it in one motion, there is, I hope people will agree, good reason to do this. Our ordinance as written does not allow chalk drawing on sidewalks. And there is some good reason for that because it can be abused. But there's also a lot of people who do it, especially kids. And especially in this time with us unable to have our usual fireworks display and other 4th of July celebrations, it seems like a real opportunity to encourage people to stay home in their own neighborhood and help celebrate the 4th of July by doing fun chalk drawings on their sidewalks. I will say that if people do abuse it, I am happy to bring this back and repeal the action that we're taking tonight. This isn't done so that we can begin using our sidewalks for statements or other things like that. This is done so that people can enjoy what can and should be a really fun activity with their families. So with that, I support this motion. I help bring it forward and hope that we can pass it tonight.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council President Clegg. As you know, we've tried very hard to ensure that people in the city of Boise participate in the census, and our Canvas team wanted to embrace sidewalk chalking as part of the way to keep the momentum going, to keep people interested and excited about participating in the census. And that was when I first learned about the issue of being able to do sidewalk chalk. So there are many purposes that can be fulfilled by allowing people to use that option. And so I will be supporting this, and I thank you for that.
All right, and with that, clerk, we'll have you call the roll.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thanks. And now we move on to new business subdivisions. First up, we've got Wow Now LLC.
Madam Mayor, thank you for that introduction. That's very enthusiastic. Before you tonight is a request to vacate a landscape easement and associated plat notes for Lot 5 of Block 1 of the Nally Springs subdivision number 4. This is just south of McMillan Road near Centennial High School. When Nally Springs subdivision number 4 was platted in 1996, there was an existing home which faced and took access from Cloverdale Road. A landscape easement and plat notes were added to the subdivision for this lot to help screen the backyard of the existing home. Now traffic has increased on Cloverdale, and the new owners would like to remodel the home and take access from Acura Avenue, a local roadway necessitating the vacation of plat notes 10 and 12. In order to install a new driveway on Acura Avenue, the 20-foot landscape easement will also need to be vacated. The HOA has provided a relinquishment letter in support of the vacation, and ACHD has required that the existing driveway on Cloverdale Road be closed and that the 7-foot wide sidewalk, curb, and gutter be installed. Planning staff is unaware of any opposition and is recommending approval tonight.
Any questions for staff? All right. Welcome. Mr. Anderson, are you you're the applicant? You're muted.
There I am. Yes, me and my partner. Thank you for having us.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation? Comments you'd like to make?
No, I just think that the way that property is laid out and the way that it currently backs into that cul-de-sac right there in the subdivision, it's a perfect plan to have that, have the front flip-flopped, basically have the front of the house facing Acura and close off Cloverdale. As we know, Cloverdale is a pretty busy street. And I think as a safety measure, just, for all parties involved, I think it's the best way to go, best thing to do.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All right, we do have the neighborhood association of record is the Centennial Neighborhood Association. It says here you likely won't be speaking. I just want to confirm that. All right. You can raise your, if you are on the Zoom, you may raise your hand. There's a little button under participants. And if you raise your hand, then we can open up your portal for testimony. Nope. All right. It looks like the neighborhood association is not here, and we have nobody from the public signed up in advance. Again, raise your hand if you would like to, if you're on there and would like to testify. Sounds as though, or looks as though nobody's on. Okay, I have confirmation from Amanda Brown that nobody has raised their hand or is on for this one. So with that, any further questions for staff or the applicant? And otherwise, a motion's in order.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of Wow Now LLC, just had to say that, SOS 20-00011 subdivision.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. Next up, we will move into public hearings. First up, we have CAR. Thanks, Mr. Anderson.
Thank
CAR
you very much.
20-1 Core Building Company at 2507 West State Street.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, the applicant is requesting a modification of a development agreement on 0.32 acres located at 2507 West State Street in a PCD DA zone. The proposed development agreement modification will facilitate a 10-unit planned residential development comprised of 2 buildings along State Street with parking access from the alley. A variance was also included. These planning approvals were not appealed and therefore are not before the city council tonight. From the aerial photograph here, you can see that the surrounding area is comprised of residential neighborhoods with the exception of the properties along State Street, which includes the St. Mary's Crossing commercial uses at the intersection of 27th and State, adjacent to the site on the northwest, and office buildings at the intersection of 25th and State Street. State Street is a principal arterial roadway and a gateway street. These modification requests include allowing alley access for the subject property, removing the requirement for the CMU wall along the alley adjacent to the site, allowing a more modern building design, and modifying the approved site plan on the DA to allow for the PUD. During the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, several neighbors expressed concerns with the proposal because it would adversely impact the adjacent neighborhood by increasing traffic along the alley. They also expressed concerns with the removal of the CMU wall since it screened the property from the neighborhood. I'll start with a brief short history of the site. In 2000, the property between 27th and 25th Street along State was rezoned to PCD DA, with the exception of the parcel right at the intersection of 25th and State, which is not included in that project. The intent of the development agreement was to develop the entire site with a commercial property or project according to the conceptual plan. However, only the St. Mary's Crossing was constructed at the corner of 27th and State, and the remaining 3 parcels to the east were never developed and then were sold to individual parties. This diagram here shows the approved site plan of the original development agreement. The blue line along the back indicates where the CMU wall was going to be required, and the green arrows mark back in and out mark the 3 access points into the project that were approved with the site plan and were specified in the development agreement. The DA required cross access with the 3 required cross access for the whole parcel or the whole project. Cross access, however, is not really possible at this point in time since the 3 parcels on the east are individually owned. And would not be possible until they redevelop. As such, the subject property in between is effectively landlocked since access to State Street is prohibited. I would also note that alley access along arterial roadways is encouraged by the development code and by our comprehensive plan. This diagram demonstrates the clear vision triangles associated with the access point for the development along the alley. A 6-foot high CMU wall is not allowed within the clear vision triangles, which leaves very little space left to install a CMU wall along the alley. Basically, only about a 4 or 5 foot section of CMU wall would be allowed here on the west side. And then there's an area on the east, which is essentially where the trash enclosure is going to be located. And I would note the trash enclosure is essentially hemmed in by a 5-foot CMU wall. As such, there's very little opportunity to install the CMU wall required by the development agreement. So in conclusion, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the development agreement modification. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Hearing none. Either Travis Perry or Ward Schweider, or maybe you're both here. The applicants, are you prepared to testify? Is this their screen or yours?
This is mine.
Okay. If you're here and plan to testify, please raise your hand. All right. Well, this is a modification to a DA. So it appears as though the applicant is not here. So if the record would reflect that, that'd be ideal. Neighborhood Association is West End NA, but we do not expect that the Neighborhood Association is here to speak.
No, I don't see them.
All right. And next up, anyone here or online from the public that wishes to testify?
No, I don't see anyone.
All right. Well, that one was simple. If there aren't further questions for staff, a motion's in order.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of CAR 20-00001.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you take the roll, please?
Clegg,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we have CAR 20-4 Stellar Senior Living at 13984 West Jasmine Lane. Celine, welcome. For a staff presentation first.
It's us now.
I think so. They unmuted us.
All right, Madam Mayor, council members, I'm back. Doing a little back and forth tonight. Before you tonight is a rezone of 5.14 acres located at 13984 West Jasmine Lane. This is off Eagle Road near Eustick Road in West Boise. The request is to rezone the property from A1 to C2D with a development agreement in order to facilitate a 150-unit senior living facility. The land use designation is mixed use. This allows almost all zoning districts. Typically, the C2 is not our most favorable zone because of the automobile uses allowed, but the planning team recommended a development agreement to prohibit those types of uses, and a commercial zone rather than a residential zone will allow a broader range of uses suitable for development along a major highway like Eagle Road in the event the senior living facility does not materialize. The development agreement also details cross-access for the site. As you can see, currently there are 2 private roads that take access off Eagle Road. To the north is Eagle View Lane, and to the south is Jasmine Lane. Residential property to the west takes access from these locations as well, and will continue to do so until redevelopment of those properties occur or Center Point Way is built out. The DA also notes cross access to the north for this parcel in order to someday consolidate the access from Eagle View Lane for future redevelopment. To the south, in coordination with the City of Meridian as required with the Fast Eddies development agreement. And to the west, for the existing homes until an alternative access is provided or redevelopment occurs. Afterwards, this access would be blocked off for vehicles and only used for emergency access, pedestrians, and bicyclists. While taking access to Eagle Road is not preferred, ITD would not allow Eagle View Lane or Jasmine Lane to be expanded to a private or public street due to the distancing between other intersections on Eagle. Also, with so many properties in the area not yet developed, the future Centerpoint Way is not viable access for this site either. ITD has stated that only the traffic created from the future senior living facility can take access from Eagle Road. Anything else to the west would overload this access point, therefore requiring the land use decision to not allow cross access for future development to the west. Only the existing homes can use this access point, and once the properties have alternative access provided or redeveloped with alternative access, will the cross access from the site be terminated. There was a late letter included in your packet from a neighbor. They've been in touch with the applicant and that has since been resolved. The applicant is of course here tonight and can provide any other further details or clarification on the proposal. But in closing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the rezone from A1 to C2D DA as proposed. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Celine, is this adjacent to the parcel that just in this past year we looked at transferring to the City of Meridian?
That is correct.
Okay.
I have on the slide here, this is that parcel that we recently transferred to the Meridian Area of Impact. And that was done early last year.
Great.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Celine, so if I understand correctly, the single-family houses that remain on Jasmine Lane will either be able to continue to access North Eagle Road with a right-in, right-out on the edge of this, or they will eventually be connected with Centerpoint Ways so that they can move in and out via that roadway. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that is correct. Just to show you on the screen, this parcel to the north is off of Eagle. There's actually two driveways here. There's one for this as well as Eagle View Lane. This parcel right here will take access from this driveway. And then this parcel, this home, and then there's actually home off over here will take access from what used to be Jasmine Lane right here. Centerpoint does not connect into Jasmine Lane right now.
Madam Mayor, follow up. But eventually, as the area does completely develop, will Centerpoint will connect? Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that's correct. This slide shows the future connectivity of the area. So right now we've got Eagle View and Jasmine, which are trying to go away at least from Eagle Road. And then Centerpoint will be built out to connect into Wainwright.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, I see the applicant up, although that doesn't look like Deborah Nelson. Looks like somebody else.
It's not. She's much better looking than I am.
Hi there.
Hi. David Martin, address 23633 Freeze Out Road, Caldwell, Idaho, 83607. And I'm with Stellar Senior Living, the applicant on this. I have a screen share here. We'll share our couple slides. Go. Okay, are you guys able to see my screen?
No.
let's see here. Let's try this again. Share screen. Oh, there we go. Share. Huh. Okay. Okay. How about now?
Yep, we can see it. In fact, if you look at the city council chambers video, you'll see the screen underneath me. So, and you can
Perfect. Yep.
see your
Great.
slides.
Thank you. So I'll just want to share briefly with you about Stellar Senior Living, who we are and what we do. And then I'll turn and why we've selected this site. And I'll turn the time over to Deborah Nelson to present further. But Stellar Senior Living, family owned and operated senior living provider in Idaho, as well as 4 other Western states. We have some guiding values and principles, but the main thing is this: we just know that our primary goal is to take care of seniors, take care of residents. Our residents, and the best way we do that is by taking care of our employees, particularly our line staff employees. As we take care of those employees, they then take care of our residents, and everything just works out. We've been in business for about 8 years. We have 2 properties already in Idaho. North Star Retirement Community up in Coeur d'Alene, as well as Lincoln Court Retirement Community over in Idaho Falls. Both have been with us since the beginning. Both are 2 of our most premier properties, and both have received multiple awards from State Health and Welfare in regards to operations and quality of care. North Star has the Silver Award, which means on their last state survey, they only received 2 minor deficiencies. And Lincoln Court has a Gold Award, which means they received 0 deficiencies, which is very unique because they're the only building larger than 60 beds. They have over 120 beds with this award. This award is often won by smaller properties, but have a community of this size of an operation win that is quite unique. We're very proud of our team for doing that. So we definitely know how to operate in Idaho. We operate good quality operation, as you can see from those awards. And not only do we know how to operate good senior living communities, we also know how to build them, which is what we're looking to do here in Boise. We recently, back in 2018, opened a brand new community down in Bountiful, Utah called Creekside. And it was awarded several various recognitions and awards for architectural design, landscaping, masonry, as well as several other awards. And we're very proud of them for that. And we bring that same type of award-winning architecture to a project here in the Boise area. In regards to why this location, it's very simple. The Treasure Valley is growing tremendously. There's a need for additional senior living services. We've done our studies and realized that there's definitely a market for it here. We know and we feel we provide a really quality service in this regard. We'd love to bring that here. This location is also very, very easily accessible to most of the Treasure Valley. 20 to 30 minutes, you can get to almost any place in the valley, which makes it very convenient for someone to put their loved one there and then be able to visit them regularly by being able to access it quickly. It's also very close to St. Luke's Hospital, as well as many other healthcare services and providers, which is what our seniors and our residents would need access to. So it just provides an ideal location for those reasons. This is a kind of a rendering of what the building could potentially look like. It's kind of a mountain modern design. We feel like it fit in very well with the surrounding architecture of this area and kind of the feel of the Boise area. This is a basic site plan of some of the landscaping and what it would look like. As you notice, Eagle Road's there on the right, running north and south. We're planning on doing about 150 units. It'll be 2 stories on the northern portion, and then potentially 3 stories on the southern portion of the building, consisting mainly of studios, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So have a nice mixture of those to meet the various needs. This is just a kind of a simple floor plan of what those apartments might look like. And then just lastly, we like to be able to provide lots of different services and amenities to both our residents that live there, as well as the people in the surrounding areas. So we provide everything from beauty salons to theater rooms, full service restaurants, bistro, cafe area. We try to do beautiful landscaping, well-maintained grounds, putting greens, libraries, multi-purpose rooms, and just all these different just things that bring value to what we provide to our residents. But also, when a senior living community goes in, it provides service opportunities, as well as opportunities for people that live in that area to engage with these residents. and engage with the community. Oftentimes we'll have, large gatherings and different family events are brought to our community because we have the facilities to provide that. So it's just another reason why a senior living community would really add benefit to this area. And with that, I'll turn my time over to Deborah Nelson, who will share a few other things with you. Thank you.
Hi there.
Thank you. Deborah Nelson, 601 West Bannock. Madam Mayor, members of the council, pleasure to be here tonight on behalf of the applicant as well. I just want to give a little additional overview of the site and the uses around us and the access, in addition to what you heard from Celine this evening. As has been noted, the property is currently served by 2 private driveways, one on the north that serves a single family home to our west, and one on the south of our property that serves 3 single family homes on the west. Neither of these existing private lanes would meet ITD's current spacing standards or be adequate to serve any redevelopment of any of these parcels. And so a new access approval is needed to utilize and develop this site. So we've worked hard with ITD to do that. There's also limited space along our frontage, which creates some challenges. There's not enough room for a right turn lane. And so the type of use that can be located on this property is relatively limited. In order to not exceed the warrant for a right turn lane there, you need to have fewer than 20 inbound trips at either your AM or your PM peak hours. And in accordance with the Kittleson study that we provided to ITD and that's in the record, our use nearly maxes that out with 18 AM trips. And so it's really a unique opportunity to site a use like this on this property because it has the ability to fully utilize the Eagle Road frontage, take advantage of it with a commercial like use, and really to take up the entire 5 acres that otherwise remains. It's an infill and difficult to develop for the reasons that I've just identified, that you need a new access, that the spacing doesn't allow a more intensive use to come in on the site as you would normally expect to see on Eagle Road. And so this creates some opportunities. And so we were able to consolidate the existing private drives, which eliminates a driveway and creates some increased safety and functionality on Eagle Road. It also provides better spacing because we're able to relocate that Jasmine Lane further north. It gets it further away from the Fast Eddie's access point that's to our south in Meridian. In fact, the current Jasmine Lane falls within the Fast Eddie's decel lane. So this will create some nice new safety there. Because of that limitation on the number of trips that can use this access safely without a right turn lane, ITD did condition our approval in saying that we can continue to serve the existing single family homes to our west, but when those sites redevelop, increasing the number of trips, that they will need to use other streets. And that's really what's been expected for this area anyway. The dotted orange line that runs north-south there is the center point that is expected to connect through there. And so that's always what's been planned on ACHD's master street map anyway. The development agreement that we've proposed that Celine mentioned, I want to make sure it's clear that we are providing pedestrian and bike access to all directions. We're also providing permanent cross access to the north, the blue property that's highlighted on this slide, and to the south, the turquoise property. And we will provide that temporary access to the west until the parcels redevelop, and then only emergency access consistent with the condition from ITD. The land to our immediate west was proposed as the Delano project, but whether it's Delano or any other future projects on those properties, our concerns remain the same. You know, in addition to what I've mentioned, that we are at risk of losing our ITD approved access if we exceed the number of trips by creating any more cross access there. We also have a real safety concern about cut through trips and not wanting to increase the number of trips cutting through our property to get to Eagle Road such as what seemed likely to occur from the proposed multifamily immediately to our west, where we were the closest location. This was a significant concern at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioners Stevens, Gillespie, Brattenober, and Finfrock all spoke out strongly against the permanent cross-access to the west, stressed that not only were they concerned about losing the ITD access on Eagle Road, but really they were very concerned about the cut-through traffic and the safety that presents for any business like ours, but in particular, our senior residents and their guests. And then just to wrap up, given the property's Eagle Road frontage and the mixed use designation in your comprehensive plan, this property really is currently underutilized with the A1 zoning and a single residence. The site has remained vacant and is surrounded by other development due to these complex access issues that I walked through. This use creates a unique opportunity for the city to fully utilize this entire property along the Eagle Road frontage. It doesn't create new access problems. In fact, it has solved some through the consolidation. It's a use that creates some nice compatibility transition to the residential behind it. And we are grateful for the support we received from staff throughout this project and for the unanimous approval that we received from the P&Z. They approved the conditional use permit, which was not appealed. They recommended this rezone to you, and now we ask for your approval of the rezone as well. And I would stand for questions.
Other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I will move on to the neighborhood of record is Centennial Neighborhood Association. Did I already say this? Or maybe they were part of another one too. It says here you likely will not be speaking. If you are indeed on.
No, they are not.
Nope, they are not on. All right, the record should reflect that Centennial Neighborhood Association did not join us. No one has signed up in advance. However, Ed Bollinger had sent comments, and in those comments, he showed that he might testify. So I want to see if Ed is here. Mr. Bollinger?
No, he's not.
Nope. All right. Anyone else? Nobody is in the council chambers. For those of you watching that can't see the council chambers, just a whole bunch of spaced chairs. It's a little eerie. Anybody else?
We do have a Melissa Bernard.
Great. Melissa, oh, great. You raised your hand. Now I can see it. Perfect. Amanda will get you ready. Is she able? Oh, no.
She is.
Okay. Amanda, Melissa, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Melissa Bernard. I live at 4025 North Dashwood Place in Meridian, Idaho, 83646. I guess my primary concern is with the infill development that is coming in the future and the high density and other uses for the infill projects to the west. Is there any extra money being allotted towards ITD or any other streets for improvements for these heavy traffic flows that are coming in the future? And also, I do have a primary concern with access aspect that seems to plague the infill projects in lieu of proper commercial and residential lanes, especially with the Delano project. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of cross access proposed in lieu of a proper lane shared by Stellar and Delano project. They're also going to have much high density uses is proposed. So we're a little concerned about the stress at the Eagle Wainwright Light that's going to be coming. And if these infill projects are coming forth, is there going to be any money put towards the improvement of flow and interconnectivity to these higher density uses? And what are we going to do to try to keep the flow to the south instead of cutting through a residential neighborhood? I hope Boise planners and Meridian planners are interacting together and planning a flow that works for these uses without expecting my neighborhood, which connects north to McMillan, and also connects to Settlers Bridge to Locust Grove. So my neighborhood, planned in 2005, is being retrofitted to handle much of these traffic woes. I know the traffic counts for the AM were counted at 18, which isn't particularly high, but they are still going to be using the light at Eagle and Wainwright. And if there's going to be any money set aside for improving that intersection. And I'm not against infill. I'm against piecemeal development without thoughts and concerns for existing traffic patterns and for future traffic. And note, Delano was remanded. It was denied. Now it's up for recommendation. So Delano might be the project on the table for this in the future, but it might be somebody else. So are these two developments working together? Is there a plan in the future? I notice there's a fire lane. Is there any way that there could be some other sort of lane to interconnect these two projects in the future? And especially there's a parcel to the north, the Wong parcel. There's somebody that lives there. They're not selling that at this point, but in the future, there's going to need to be some sort of flow there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Thanks for joining us. Celine, you jumped up.
Madam Mayor, could I ask Celine?
Yeah, Celine just jumped up. I think she's got something to say possibly in response to the residents' questions.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, I believe if I can foresee what your question will be, is the Delano subdivision, which is in Meridian, was denied by their city council for annexation, rezone, and a planned community on May 12th. They are asking for reconsideration, which will be before Meridian on July 28th. So we're not sure of the fate of this project quite yet. However, I believe most of what was contested were the lots up here to the north and not necessarily the multifamily project. We have been in communication with City of Meridian planners though.
Council President, did you have a further
Thank
question?
you. If I could follow up on that, Celine. So looking at this, it appears that if this subdivision, including the multifamily, were built, the connection south on Century Point Way would be connected now, but the connection north would not. Am I reading that correctly?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that is correct. Because Delano is only for this parcel and this larger parcel. This parcel to the north was not included in that subdivision.
Thank you. And it won't be our problem. It will be Meridian's because of the change in area of city impact. But I guess it would concern me that the eventual connection would then be opposed because all of this for now would be traveling to the south down to Ustick rather than up to Wainwright. And however, the future Century Point Way is on the ACHD Master Streets map. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, that is correct. And on the screen now is the overall area for connectivity, where you can see that Center Point Way goes to the south and runs into Ustick Road. So that is correct. The traffic would run south until Center Point is connected to Wainwright.
And then finally, ensuring that there is not access to the east through this property would ensure that the traffic from any of these developments would be required to use this collector, which has long been planned for that amount of traffic. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, I believe once redevelopment occurs, let's say for that Delano project, the access points shown on this project would turn into emergency access only, whether it be bollards or whatnot. Maybe the applicant can provide detail if they have that yet.
But that is what our Planning and Zoning Commission approved. And that is not before us, only the zone is before us.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, the zoning request is before you, but it does have a development agreement. That development agreement does detail out this cross access. However, planning and zoning did go back and forth, obviously wanting to not have access points on Eagle Road, but this project has been told by ITD that if any other traffic comes from the western properties, that they will eliminate their Eagle Road access. And then depending on what is proposed to the west, like what is currently or was proposed with Delano, that means all of these residents in the multifamily project would likely not go up Center Point to Wainwright, but they would likely go through the site in question tonight to Eagle Road, even though it would be a right-in, right-out access.
Thank you.
All right, further questions? I believe nobody else is
No, there is not.
online to testify. Are there further questions for staff? And now the applicant, would you like to, we do a wrap up, right? Rebuttal, wrap up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just very briefly, Deborah Nelson again. I appreciate the responses that have already been made, I think, to the neighbors' concern. Just to be clear, whether it's Delano because it's successfully reconsidered or another future development project, at that point, yes, our access points on our western border would switch to controlled emergency access only. And that is what's proposed in the current draft of the development agreement that was recommended by the P&Z and before you this evening. If you have any further questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them.
It doesn't look like it. All right, thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing and a motion's properly before us.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I appreciate the conversation, information that's been provided tonight. And in particular, Deb, I think you provided a great level of detail that gave me great confidence in this project going forward. So I will be moving approval of CAR 20-00004.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
just to clarify, and that includes the DA as it was forwarded to us by the Planning and Zoning Commission, correct?
Yes.
Yes, accept that.
Thank you.
Great. All right, and with that, doesn't look like there's any further discussion. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe there's, oh, who was that? Nope. I believe there's no further business to come before the council.
Madam, move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
See you.